progress has been made in the equipment and technique for landing operations against hostile shores. This, then, is an introduction, as it were, to combined operations. The equipment and technique is being improved continuously, and this film should not be considered as the last word on the subject.
Before World War II, the land that became HMS Cricket was owned by the Garton family, who lived at Bursledon, sometimes referred to as Bursledon House, when the War Office purchased the woodland and farmland in 1939. In 1943, a training camp was needed near the southern ports to accommodate the Marines preparing for the eventual invasion and to assemble the craft that would be required. The site at Bursledon, just outside Southampton, seemed ideal. It was close to Southampton water, yet far enough from the city centre to avoid air raids. Local boatyards were at hand, for example, Deacon's, and there was easy access to Portsmouth's Naval Command Centre at Southwick Fort. The Pioneer Corps and Royal Engineers moved in to set up the utilities at the site. Roads were laid through the woodland, Nissen huts erected, drains, water mains, electricity and telephone cables, cookhouse, administration buildings, officers' mess, parade ground and Navy canteen were all installed. 110 living quarter huts, each holding up to 24 men, were sited in the local woodland, where most of the brick and concrete bases can still be seen. Each hut normally had about 10 double bunks of the standard naval type and a steel locker, also standard pattern, for each bunk. In the center of the hut at either end was a table with bench seats, whilst dead center, between the tables, was the heating for the hut in the form of a cylindrical coke fire with its round metal chimney disappearing up through the roof. These fires, though somewhat primitive, were highly efficient in providing heat, perhaps not a very good idea from a safety point of view, but ideal for making toast. Initially, HMS Cricket was a Royal Marine Landing Craft Crew training base. Several existing properties were commandeered for the officers, wrens and other support staff that would be needed for Operation Neptune, which was the name given to the assault stage of Operation Overlord. Bursledon House, now Bursledon Hall, was made the HQ. Homeward House served as officers' quarters, and Freehills Cottage was used by the wrens, who had a camp close by, for their sleeping quarters. On arriving at Cricket Camp in those days, one would come down the road past the several private dwellings on the left, in Pylons Lane, then enter the main gate. Immediately on the left was the brick-built guard room. Proceeding on down the road through the camp, in clearings on each side of the road were Nissen huts for the accommodation of all other ranks and NCOs. Another hut was the flotilla office and another the cookhouse. When reaching the end of the road at the bottom of the camp, there was a hardcore track to the right and another to the left. Taking the track to the left, after several hundred yards, one came to another brick-built building, which was our armory, containing our ammunition and weapons not required, only our rifles being kept in our huts. Then a short distance on you came to a small wooden hut, which was used by the sentries guarding the armory and this track. On taking the right-hand track, you came to another wooden hut used by sentries guarding the track. Further on, one came to the creek coming in from the river, which was home eventually to our landing craft. So each night we had 4 teams of sentries guarding the camp, and we also had a roving patrol in the camp as well. There were also well over 100 wren ratings in their separate camp. Wren officers replaced paymasters, were secretaries to admirals and officers, coders and decoders. Wrens replaced writers, telephonists, telegraphists, signallers, storekeepers and draftsmen. They manned listening stations, fitted depth charges and paravanes in ships, attached floats to torpedo nets, cleaned boilers, washed lifebelts and drove cars. Wrens carried out domestic and clerical duties. They baked, painted, cleaned and ran accommodation hostels, and did a myriad of jobs which released men for sea service. HMS Cricket was largely self-contained and provided for most of the daily needs of its personnel. Entertainment was provided in the form of films and talks in the cinema, while sporting activities such as football, cricket and hockey were also enjoyed. The base staff provided teams to play other shore establishments in the area, including a football team which played in the Hampshire League with some distinction. The camp concert party was also a popular source of entertainment. One Marine veteran recalls American Rangers playing baseball in Botley Square and records the rivalry between American and Canadian troops, sometimes resulting in skirmishes after pub closing times. Discipline for the Marines in the camp was strict, so these occasional social excursions were much prized and are well remembered to this day.
There are 4 types of special landing craft in commission for landing operations, exclusive of conversions of ordinary types. This is the assault landing craft, the ALC, which is armoured, has a crew of 5, and can carry 35 troops. She can therefore carry a convenient complement of 1 platoon of infantry and a few technical troops. Her top speed is 10.5 knots. This bow view shows the ramp door exit and the armoured position on the starboard for the coxswain. Unloaded, this craft weighs 7.5 tons.
Other, less approved interests, including social visits to local pubs and villages, provided welcome relief from the confines of camp life. A footpath popularly known as the Burma Road offered a convenient if unofficial out-of-camp route for some, leading over the barbed wire barrier to Botley, where the Bugle Pub and the British Legion Hall offered the Marines a welcome chance to meet local girls. In preparation for the big day arriving, the track down to the river was widened by Royal Engineers so that 3-ton lorries could get down to Homemoor Creek and the Hamble River.
She only draws 19 inches when loaded, and so the troops should get ashore dry shod on a shelving beach. Troops should jump out 2 at a time, and a well-trained platoon should be ashore within 9 seconds of the craft beaching.
Homemoor Creek was dredged to create anchorage for the landing craft. Some of the wooden shuttering from this can still be seen. During the last week of April 16th, landing craft arrived from Sicily, in poor condition, and the Royal Marines started refurbish them and practice their landing training. The creek, which became known as Homemoor Creek, was enlarged and dredged before a new landing stage was constructed. A track was laid suitable for heavy vehicles to travel between the campsite and the creek. Training for the operation of landing craft was undertaken and much resentment caused with local boat owners who complained that they were being inconvenienced by the wash that was being created. During 1944 the base was used to assemble troops and landing craft in the build-up to D-Day. From the 23rd of May 1944, during the final preparations for D-Day, the base was completely sealed. The river was jammed with landing craft, anti-aircraft guns were spaced all along the river. Indeed, the whole of Hampshire was becoming a vast arsenal, every roadside jammed with vehicles, every grass verge loaded with ammunition. Canvas villages sprang up in the adjacent fields and woodlands. The field opposite the Swan, now flats, was a mass of tents. The local rector arrived in the camp and there was a parade. We all attended and knelt in the main road coming into the camp. The rector stood on a box and gave a short speech. God teach us not to show cowardice, God give us the strength to face the enemy, and the Lord's Prayer. The whole unit was called to attention and formed columns. The CO took his place and we marched through the camp down to the river and boarded the landing craft and set sail for the Normandy beaches. D-Day had begun. In the film, Lord Lovett can be seen addressing the Special Service Brigade at their sealed transit camp on Southampton Common and also spoke in French. However, it is an urban myth that Brigadier Simon Fraser, 15th Lord Lovett, embarked from the Rising Sun jetty in landing craft at Warsash on D-Day. In his memoirs, in other words his own account, he says on page 367 of March Past that, on Wednesday the 31st of May we drew our rations, cooking equipment, etc., and next day moved down to the Princess Astrid and the Maid of Orleans in Southampton docks. The French troops and the rest of the brigade remained in camp. They were all landing from landing craft infantries, which are small and cramped and cannot keep men aboard for more than 24 hours. We were the lucky ones, Lord Lovett says, as we knew the ships well and settled in quickly. I distributed my final items of kit and lectured the troops on the use of morphia, etc. Soon we were absolutely ready. To clarify, the French troops seen marching in the film are Kiefer's commandos. 177 free French soldiers who fought alongside British commandos during World War II, most notably as the only French troops to participate in the D-Day landings. They were incorporated into No. 4 Commando, part of the 1st Special Service Brigade, under Brigadier Lord Lovett. Warsash at the mouth of the River Hamble served as a crucial embarkation point for combined operations, with units embarking on landing craft LCIS from HMS Tormentor to join the D-Day invasion force, setting sail for Sword Beach. The film shows how training at HMS Cricket contributed to the Army and Royal Navy working well in close cooperation to ensure the success of D-Day.